Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be back here at Microsoft Build. Thank you for joining us. Please come on in, have a seat. Today, we'll explore how UiPath is redefining end-to-end automation and agentic orchestration, and how our deep bidirectional integration and partnership with Microsoft is delivering outsized outcomes for our shared customers, and how you too can reliably infuse the power of agents into real-world business processes. UiPath is the world's leading business automation platform, trusted by over 10,000 enterprises, supported by an amazing community of over 3 million developers, 7,000 partners, and active in over 100 countries. Now, earlier this month, we launched the first enterprise-grade platform for agentic automation that understands context, adapts in real time, and plugs seamlessly into your tech stack. Automation is now smarter, more resilient, and ready for scale. Before we show you what's possible, I want to rewind and see how we got here and how those lessons have shaped our philosophy. UiPath started in Bucharest in 2005 with a simple idea: free people from the mundane so they can focus on the more meaningful work. In 2013, we married OpenCV with RPA and introduced record your screen automation. And what used to take competitors 2 days to build, we could build live in 5 minutes. And from there, we never looked back. That was our niche. Our first guiding principle has always been consistent: build tech that works, skip hype. By embracing open source innovation and the relentless pragmatism of our Eastern European roots, UiPath delivers an automation platform trusted by the world's largest enterprises. Agentic automation is the next leap forward. We're not just automating tasks, we're automating processes that think and adapt, operating with the speed and precision of 1,000 experts. I'm Evan Cohen, Director of Product at UiPath, and for the past 6 years, I've had the pleasure of working with our customers on the UI-only bots of 2018 to today's complex AI-driven processes which span across departmental boundaries. Now we orchestrate across data, documents, apps, tools, automating disparate tasks, and producing material outcomes. So let's level set real quick. I think everybody is very much feeling the buzz that AI will soon do everything, but reality is a little bit messier. There's complexity, right? The average enterprise runs over 175 apps, and each of those apps have their own downstream integrations, which often are built over the course of years and leads to the fragmentation and splintering of processes. And developers are left trying to automate that mess. And then there's risk and trust. So security, governance, compliance, those things remain non-negotiable. And then there's the real problem of controlled agency. How do you ensure an agent does what you expect it to do reliably every single time? And as models and hardware commoditize, value shifts to orchestration, historically UiPath's home turf. And our response to that is that our agents operate on a data in, action out principle. Our agents are geared for outcomes, not just chat. And we have a massive head start, right? Millions of UiPath robots are already wired into real enterprise processes. So when you turn an agentic capability on, you're building on proven rails, not a science project sandbox. So we fuse AI, automation, and human oversight into a single control plane. And the result is smarter decisions, faster execution, and the built-in resilience when conditions ultimately change. Now, everything lives on one unified platform with all the benefits of being vertically integrated between processes, workflows, and activities. And that gives you centralized governance for visibility, auditability, and policy control by design, but without the limitations of a walled garden, because we deliver an open platform, which means you always have the flexibility to choose the best tool for the job. Tomorrow's processes are going to be a relay race. Robots are going to handle rules, agents will tackle ambiguity, people will lead, and they will lead the charge and step in where supervision or human input is needed. So in short, agents think, robots do, and people lead. Today, my colleague Masaki will unpack agentic orchestration, what it is, how it works, how you build. I'll showcase our open agent ecosystem, how you can build UiPath agents and how you can integrate them with Copilot Studio. And then we'll close with a discussion featuring Bas, CTO of Copilot Studio, and Ram, Director of Automation at Johnson Controls. So thank you for spending the afternoon with us. Let's dive in. Please welcome Masaki Kumamoto to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, my name is Masaki Kumamoto. I'm a solution architect at the UiPath incubation team. We work with global enterprise customers to co-create agentic automation to push the boundary of what agent can do. We had a privilege to work with Microsoft and Johnson Controls to build a use case, which we're going to talk about in the fireside chat. But in my part of the session, I'm going to focus on what agentic orchestration is, which is going to be the key technology for any kind of agentic automation. Before I get into it, let me explain about what robots and agents are in the context of UiPath, because you're going to hear a lot in this session. So robot is a rule-based automation execution entity. It sits in your desktop or virtual machine, and you create the automation in deterministic way. So what you see on the screen on the left side is called UiPath Studio. This is where you create the automation. You can have UI automation. You can have intelligent document processing. Application native connector will call automation. And the human in the loop for the validation. And you can even do API automation within it. So robots follow the exact rules that you defined, like if else for each loop. It's like a programming, but low code, no code. Agent, on the other hand, behave differently. You give instruction, not the logic. It's powered by large language model, and it has reasoning and the planning capability to call tools, context, and escalation. Evan is going to deep dive in his part of the session, so stay tuned for that. Most of the use cases require robots and agent. And let me explain what I mean by that. So the use case you're looking at is a loan origination use case for banking sector. I've personally borrowed a mortgage last year, so it's familiar to me. But we are looking at the process from the banking side. So whenever applicants submit the loan application, loan origination officer have to do, as a high-level overview, do 4 steps. Application intake and the completeness validation, data entry verification checks, check the eligibility, and determine if the application should be approved or rejected, and they do the system update. And on the desktop, what's going on is something like this. Download a lot of files, check the documents, synthesize the data, check this scoring system, and there are a lot of things going on. Of course, this doesn't happen only in the loan origination process, but there are a lot of complex process like this everywhere, manually. That's where UiPath can be handy. So we provide solution to automate business process like this. And we can do a lot without any agent, actually. The orange part is done by UiPath Robot in deterministic way, because a lot of business process still follow deterministic way. We rather want to focus on the deterministic automation execution entity. Robot can read the document, extract the information from the document, input those data into the system, and even human escalation can be done. But at the same time, there are always last 1 mile. A lot of validation has to happen by human. That's because a lot of business process requires semantic understanding of the data to do validation and analysis. And we couldn't automate that without with robotic process automation. That's where agent can be helpful. agent has semantic understanding of the content, and it can dynamically execute automation to retrieve information or input information certain system. And you can even have a small human escalation when it's needed. So it's really expanded the scope of the automation. And agentic orchestration is going to help even further. Each task, before that, it was siloed, but now we can connect all the logic into this BPMN diagram, and you can really coordinate how you want to process each agent, robot, and human validation in visually representative way. I'm going to dig into about what and how it works. So agentic orchestration has 5 core capabilities: model, implement, operate, monitor, and optimize. Let's deep dive one by one. So the first capability agentic orchestration has is modeling. This is where business analysts can model the end-to-end process by having discussion with a line of business people and describe the whole process with language called the BPMN, Business Process Modeling and Notation. It's local, no code. Let's see how it works. So this is UiPath Studio, where you create automation and the BPMN. And you can design the whole process with BPMN's way. It's all local, no code. And because it's industry standard notation way, usually business process analysts know how to use it already. And we implemented the AI capability into this BPMN as well. So let's take a look at the demo. So I'm playing the recording, but I have the live demo. So the function we implemented is called Autopilot, just like Copilot in Microsoft, but we call it Autopilot. Let's say you want to add a new task between tailor applicant response and the notify applicant. I want to make a human validation. So I can ask the AI to add the human validation. And what Autopilot is going to do is it's going to lead the whole BPMN flow, understand the context of the business process, and add the certain tasks into the step. So the Autopilot is now thinking how this process should work, where the task should be implemented. And then on the bottom side, what you can see is the new process the Autopilot created. So if I go slow, as you can see, Autopilot was able to recognize the whole business process and add it to human validation. I can even edit it further, but if it looks good, I can just click the accept button to apply the change. So that was the Autopilot capability. Let me go back to the slide. And if you want to try the BPMN capability today, there's a great news. There's a free version of this BPMN diagram solution we call UiPath Builder, and the bpmn.uipath.com. If you type that in a browser, you can try it free of charge from today. No account required. So if you scan the QR code, it will bring you to the URL. So please share that to your colleague to describe the business flow. And any business process you created here, you can download as a BPMN file and import to UiPath Studio when you actually want to start using UiPath. And then you can actually appreciate all the other agentic capability, which I'm going to explain later. And if you have already BPMN tool in your organization, you can download the BPMN file and do the same thing. The second capability is implement. So business analysts design the flow, and it will become an actual executable entity by assigning robots, agent, and human validation into the BPMN diagram. So it will streamline the communication between business analyst and the developer. Let's see how it works. So agent part, everyone is going to take care of the demonstration. Human validation part, this is the solution called apps action. So in the loan origination use case, maybe loan origination officer want to take a look at all the extracted information from robot, analysis data by agents, and on the right side, extracted information from the document with this capture of the document. So every information will be consolidated into one screen, and they can just either reject or approve in there. Remember all the cluttered screen you saw previously? Instead of that, they can have a consolidated experience to streamline their process. So it's going to make the process faster. So that's one example of human validation. And we added the innovation in robotic process automation as well. So the first innovation we implemented within robot, it's confusing because it's called the computer use agent, but it's really the agent within the robot. What you can do is you can execute UI automation dynamically within the deterministic robotic process automation. So for example, if you want to make some dynamic automation for a specific application, in this case it's Outlook, you can specify the application and explain what kind of automation you want to create in natural language, select the model, and the robot will follow the instruction for the UI automation purpose. We usually recommend to use deterministic robotic process automation because it's more robust and reliable. But for some small part, you might want to use more dynamic way. For those cases, you could use the computer use agent. The another capability we added is healing agent. So this is also a new capability within robot. So how many of you guys have developed the robotic process automation before here? Okay, I see Hugh. The biggest challenge people usually face is when user interface changes. It occurs error, and it just stops. It occurs error. Something like this. The UI interface changed completely, and maybe there's a pop-up, random pop-up, latest news and things like that. Those are really hard to overcome with RPA. But we added a new capability called the healing agent. So UiPath healing agent is going to recognize all the change between the development time and the production time, and understand the semantic meaning of the screen, and proceed the automation accordingly without any edit. And if you don't want agents to fix the automation on demand, you can turn off the self-healing capability so it can notify the developer, hey, this error happened, so you probably want to fix the automation. And the healing agent even suggests how to fix it with the screenshot. And you can immediately open UiPath Studio, give the suggestion how to fix it. If it looks good, you can just click the accept button, and you can publish the automation to the production environment. So developer can recognize what happened, and they can have full control on that, even if it's an accident. And all the development experience is unified. We call unified development experience, RPA, API automation, human in the loop app. You can develop everything in one single project in UiPath Studio. So you don't need to have multiple screens and so on. The third capability of agentic orchestration is operation. Here I will do the live demonstration. So with UiPath agentic orchestration, automation COE team can operate and monitor all the deployed automation in a single pane of glass. So this is the operation view. There are nice dashboard about what kind of automation we have in this instance. And there's a process incident view, which is focusing on the processes that occurs later, so COE team can immediately detect the issues. I can even dig into the specific process. In this case, I will click the loan origination process. And as you can see, each line you see here are representation of transaction. And I can see nice summary view of this whole process, how many times each tasks are executed correctly, how many are in the pending state, how many failed, duration, time, those are all in one place. And if I dig into one of the transactions, I can even check what's going on within the specific instance. So in this case, it's pending at the escalation review part. The whole process has this concept called the global variable. So each task can pass variable each other, and I can see what kind of variable are made in this global variable layer. I can see what kind of execution trail were made. For example, this UiPath agent, I can see what kind of a job was made. And I can just go through different tasks too. And if I want, I can even pause this instance and manipulate it. What I mean by that manipulate is I can change the variable and this start from the same task or different place, different task. I can move the task whenever I want. And you can even migrate the version of the process. So if you see any process, if you see any issues in the process, you can just fix it and update the process and apply that fix to the existing instance. How awesome is it? It's so hard to do that with builds from scratch approach, but we take care of that portion. So that is the operation layer. So I showed the process instance view already, so I will skip this part. The third capability is monitoring. You can see all the instance view with this historical process dashboard, which I have a live demo for that again, so I will share my screen again. So I will take a look at the same process and check the monitoring view of this process. So if you can see, there's a monitoring tab. If I click this and this show the heat map, I can see which task is taking the most time immediately. It looks like it's taking a long time in the timer event part, which makes sense because it's waiting for certain action for 5 days. But I can also see the human validation is taking longer time, so I can even dig in deeper. And you can even add some custom dashboard just below the diagram on top of the business analyst, the one business analyst made. So this will allow the COE team to report the KPI and how the automation program is doing immediately. And this is great news for COE team. And the next capability is optimization capability. We have process intelligence AI capability that allows you to do certain optimization. Did it work? Nice. So the process intelligence AI is going to take not only the automation log, but also system logs and the user activity on the desktop. And we will create this nice analysis view to dig in deeper so you can analyze the cause of the issue, inefficiency, even deeper with all the data we aggregated. We even give some inefficiency analysis recommendation so you can lead each of them to make the improvement even further. I want you to imagine how difficult it is to make this kind of function without having platform like this, without agentic orchestration layer. So let's recap. Agent orchestration brings together 5 core capability: model, implement, operate, monitor, and optimize. Together, they form a complete life cycle for orchestrating complex automation with robots, agent, and human in the loop. So choosing right automation foundation is going to be really important, especially at a time like this, because things are changing, new evolution are coming. Every company is struggling to implement AI in secure and governed way with great monitoring function. UiPath will take care of everything on the out of box with our agentic orchestration layer. So I hope you will bring back this new concept called agentic orchestration concept to your organization and talk about it, why it's needed, how they can make a strategy around it. If you can bring back, that will be a success for my session. With that, we would like to deep dive into the agent part. So I want Evan to come back to the stage. Evan, come on back.
Thanks, Masaki. So the UiPath Platform is an open agentic ecosystem. And that means that you can orchestrate your agents, which are built natively in low code on our own platform, in Copilot Studio using our new bidirectional integration, inside of Crew AI, Agentforce, and others, and even coded agents that you've written in Python with, for example, LangChain, and deployed inside of UiPath's orchestrator. Now, it would not be a session at Build if we didn't build something. So it's time to get our hands dirty and build some agents. So let me start here in UiPath's own UiPath Studio, which is a fully integrated development experience where I can create everything from RPA workflows to agents, agentic processes. Let's get started building an agent. Now for me, the hardest part about getting started building an agent is getting a good system user prompt that I can start iterating on. So I'm going to give Autopilot UiPath's agent that turns natural language into easy to comprehend automations across some APIs, agents, documents, and other user interfaces, some instructions to help us get started. And it looks like it's not on my clipboard anymore. So give me 1 second. Fantastic. All right, so this is going to automatically pull any available tools for me and knowledge from my agent, so it can use them at runtime. Now, there are a few things which we know are really hard to do. Building a reliable agent is really difficult. So I want to flip over to a completed version of this agent, which I've already iterated on, and show you a little bit about how I did it. Now, the first thing that you're going to notice is that we have a much, much longer and more detailed system and user prompt. Now, UiPath's Agent Builder gives me 2 essential tools to systematically improve my agent. The first is the agent health score, and the second is evaluations. The agent health score provides suggestions about how I can improve my agent and is even able to implement some of those suggestions via Autopilot. So if I asked for suggestions about how I can improve my prompt, I can see that there are some examples that are missing. And I can go over to Autopilot and review suggestions about how I can provide some of those examples to my prompt. Now, how could I make this even more reliable? Well, you would never deploy code to production without writing tests first, right? And the same is true for agents. We need the confidence that this agent is going to reliably do what we want. And that's where evaluations come in. So I can open up my evaluations, which are effectively tests for our agent that give us confidence that it's going to do what we think it's going to go do. And they represent a data set of inputs and outputs that we can validate against an agent definition. And it looks like one of these records in my evaluation is not performing the way I expected. So let's dig into it a little bit. I'll click on that one record because I can see that it was performing only to about 40% of our expectations. And we can dig into the why of that. So this is a loan eligibility agent, and it's responsible for assessing the risk level for a given loan. And if it underreports risk, that's a risk to my business. So we can see that that was flagged here. And then I can dig into the individual traces of this agent and actually see what specifically went wrong and at what step, so I can go and correct it. Now, this combination of the health score and evaluations is what gives me confidence that I'm ready to deploy into production. Now, naturally, in the real world, we know that some processes cannot be handled by low-code agents, which is why earlier this month, we launched support for coded agents in UiPath with our friends at LangChain, the leading open source framework for agents. And together, we're making it easier for developers to build, monitor, and deploy advanced agents written in Python or TypeScript. And that includes native integration with LangSmith for observability. It includes collaboration around the agent protocol for interoperability and support for lane graph agents deployed inside of UiPath. Now, a build session would not be complete without seeing at least a little bit of code. So let's take a quick look at coded agents. So I have here a Python agent that I've pulled from the ecosystem, and I'm using Cursor. And I've created a fork of an open source deep research agent and adapted it to validate against state loan requirements. All I have to do is add the reference to the UiPath LangChain package. And here's the reference to that LangGraph agent, where I have the full capabilities of LangGraph available to me. And once you've built your agent, you can deploy it into UiPath just like any other agent using our CLI, except that now this agent is fully integrated and governed in our enterprise-grade UiPath infrastructure. So let me show you what that looks like. Here we can see a specific instance of this loan origination process that Masaki was walking you through before. We can see the individual step where this LangChain agent is participating in this process. And we can also see all of the individual traces and calls between LLMs and tools for this specific agent, giving me full end-to-end visibility about what is happening inside of my process. Now, in addition to LangGraph's agent protocol, we are rolling out support soon for MCP and A2A. And I've now saved my favorite part of this demo set for last. So last month, we announced bi-directional integration between UiPath and Copilot Studio, unlocking new use cases and scenarios for our mutual customers and helping them solve unique business challenges. We've enhanced the UiPath connector to enable our customers to reuse what they have built between ecosystems and to build new hybrid solutions by providing seamless interoperability between resources created in either platform, like flows and automations, copilots and agents, Power Apps and apps. So to illustrate this, I have a simple invoice processing scenario. And I've built a custom Copilot in Copilot Studio, which a business user can proactively converse with in Microsoft Teams. And the Copilot can reactively handle inbound invoices when they arrive via email. And once the invoice is provided, the Copilot's going to hand off that invoice to a specialist UiPath agent for processing. Now, the agent uses automation tools like document understanding, and in the case of an exception, escalating to a human. And once that's resolved, it will complete that round trip and inform our Copilot agent that the work is done. So I'm going to go ahead and simulate the trigger for the arrival of this workflow. And then a topic will be triggered to handle its processing. Now, in this case, we're using a flow to do this handoff. But you can also use UiPath actions directly from the Copilot Studio canvas. Now, if we flip over to UiPath's Orchestrator, we can see the agent job that Copilot just triggered, which will be suspended once it's processed by document understanding and suspended, and then sent to a human for review. And after reviewing that exception, it's going to resume that job and then send everything back to Copilot Studio for downstream processing. And in fact, we can see that this invoice has been successfully processed. So the integration is super powerful, and it means that whatever your use case, your Copilot agents can be upskilled with specialist UiPath agents and fit-for-purpose automation tools. And by the way, the bidirectional integration isn't limited to Copilot Studio. I can call UiPath resources from a Power Automated flow, which means that we've really added a whole bunch of additional capabilities. Now, we fundamentally believe in the power of people, agents, and robots working together to solve ambiguous business problems, which is a great segue into the final portion of this session, which is our panel discussion. So please join me in welcoming Ramnath Natarajan and Bas Brickelmans to the stage.
Oh, hi, thanks.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, thanks, Ivan.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So, Ram, my first question is for you. If you look here, you can see that JCI is very clearly on the forefront of agentic automation. Can you tell us how your team at JCI is transforming their work with AI agents?
So first of all, thanks for having me here. With that said, right, for us, this is a natural progression. So what I mean by that is that we have been building APIs for a very long time. We started our journey, moved into RPA. We use both the technologies, UiPath and as well as Power Automated within our flows today. Then we ventured into AI, last year into Gen AI, right? Late last year, we also moved a lot of AI into agentic side of the world. Then we started building AI agents on top of it, right? So if you just look at it, there is a level 1, level 2, level 3, right, up to level 5. So for us, this is a natural progression of how we have been able to enable, right, agents, right, along with all the assets that we have today.
Can you share maybe one or two of the big learnings that you've had in your journey?
So the big learnings to me is mostly around the AI as a whole, right? Is a probabilistic way of thinking, right? So that's something that you will need to be really be cautious around, because your business is not going to buy into the probabilistic theory, because they are going to ask for accuracy at 100%, right? So that's the biggest learning for us, right? Educating our business in terms of what the technology can do for them, right? And how we can just bring value out of that. It's a learning, right, that we had there.
Yeah, absolutely. This next question is for you, Bas, at least to start. On working across agent platforms, the industry has really come together in a meaningful way around a couple of standards. Some specific protocols like MCP and A2A. Those are two good examples. How do you foresee agent interoperability in the future? How do you see that evolving?
Yeah, great question, Evan. So I think we've seen the early signs of, we're beginning to look at standardizing things. We're meeting regularly with Google and with several other big tech companies, and we're trying to basically establish some kind of standard that we can all align on, and basically create the HTTP for agents, and hopefully governed by an open standards body. And so I think MCP is a great starting point, which it obviously doesn't have everything that we need, but the idea behind it is really good. We're very we're very excited to see, like, we have so many partners that are started to build MCP servers that are basically turning existing APIs or legacy systems into things that agents can understand more natively without having to resort to UI automation or without having to resort to like these more, or say, cumbersome processes or cumbersome integrations to go into those systems. And I think A2A is something, Microsoft has a similar activity protocol that is used by Copilot and Teams and other systems that's supported by our SDK that enables rich user interfaces to be basically projected into, into Copilot, into Teams, into other places. But it's also used for agent-to-agent interop. And so we're now making sure that we can adapt to like, other protocols like A2A, like MCP, and I'm sure there will be more. And we're trying to basically make sure that Copilot and Copilot Studio integrate with all the existing platforms that are out there and any new ones that pop up.
Do you think we'll see any other emergent protocols?
I'm sure, yeah. I'm sure next week there's going to be another one that pops up. Yeah.
Anything on the radar? Anything that you think that people should keep an eye out for?
I think not that I'm aware of right now. Like, I think we're partnering closely with with Anthropic and with Google and with others, and we're trying to set up a new, like an actual standard protocol that we can use for all our features. Like, if you look at the protocol that we use today, like the activity protocol, it has very rich user interface. Like, you have file uploads, attachments, there's authentication flows, adaptive cards. There's all kind of, or say, advanced capabilities that you typically see flash by, like, things like citations, so forth, like they sort of flash by in the user experience, and you're not really thinking about how complex, the underlying mechanism is to like be able to render all that, render it on mobile and on different platforms in a fairly consistent way without resorting to like building custom HTML elements into it. So I would say, like, I think both MCP, A2A have a long way to go to be like really full-fledged integration patterns. And that's why I think like another one might pop up, or maybe where this is like the thing that we'll start evolving. So we'll see.
And Ram, how about you? How do you foresee agent interoperability evolving?
So in my mind, right, so in the past, we've always been working with API. API was the standard for us when we were building simple agents, like last year, okay, when MCP and A2A came in, right? I would just look from top down. We are going to orchestrate a multi-agent framework in the future, right? APIs are not built for LLMs, so that was always a gap that we have always had, right? And which means that MCP and A2A are going to help us solve the problem, right, for us. So right now we are still in a simple agent scenario. The more and more we move into a multi-agent scenario, right, framework, you really need those, right, protocols for us to use it. Right? As a developer, I don't want messy coding, so I need clean protocols to do my job.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially as we see the emergence of specialist agents, it's really important that those agents can collaborate with one another. Ram, I'll start with you again here. I want to talk a little bit about value, because I've heard you articulate a great framework for how you think about value. And one of the biggest challenges that we hear from customers is how you actually measure that material value of agents inside of the enterprise. So how do you think about business value and ROI?
So I come back from an automation background, right? So everything starts with a value statement, right? It could be in a margin expansion, or it could be in a growth, right? That's how we look at it, right? But before you even think about the technology, the first thing that I would always look at is the business problem, right? Business problem is, if there is a big business problem, then you are going to have value is just a derivative of the problem, right? That's how I will just look at it, right? So to me, focus on the business problem. And we had significant gap in the past because 2-3 years before, we were only focused on RPA, and we were not able to solve complex business problems which had AI in the mix, right? Everybody would have used, right, some form of invoice processing, IDPN, but just about that, right? We just stopped right there, right? and we wanted to do more, and your value is unlocked when you have the capability to have AI, RPA, right, and a low code all together, right, which is solving a business problem, then your value is clearly unlocked right there, right. That's how we see it, right. For me, technology is an enabler, right. Value just comes out naturally out of that.
And what about you, Baz? I'm curious to better understand how you're thinking about evolving Copilot Studio to better report on value and the value that you see customers achieving with Copilot Studio.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a great problem, because measuring business value usually is something, it's not technology driven. It's something that is above the technology, that's rarely encoded within the system itself. There are some metrics, like even in Copilot Studio, there are some capabilities where generative AI helps you build out the agent and helps you evolve the agent. There, we internally were able to create some metrics on like how many hours, because we see through our telemetry like how long does it take to build out certain scenarios, and then we compare like the users that were using Gen AI to do it versus the users that weren't, and then we can clearly see, okay, there's an ROI for the people that are building the agents. We can see they're saving a bunch of time and they're still getting the outcomes that they were looking for. I think as a platform, it's difficult for us to say like, this is how much money you're going to save with this particular implementation. We're looking at like there's an ROI dashboard for Copilot that tries to approximate certain productivity gains, but it's really, I think, up to the scenario to know like here you're able to say like you've saved 18,000 hours. I think it's a simple calculation to take that, how many runs are you doing, how many hours are you saving per run, and then do that math and build a dashboard around it. But I think it's hard for us as a platform to judge like, what that might be. I mean, we're happy, like it's great that you're able to, articulate some of these gains, and we see it like all across the board. Like it's overwhelming sometimes what people are able to do with the generative AI when applied to their business process. But I think, yeah, I think it's very exciting, and there's almost always there is a very clear and obvious ROI to it, like deploy this technology, even when it's not, I heard you say 100% accurate. I think it doesn't have to be 100% accurate, but it has to do better than the current manual process, I think, as a sort of baseline. And then you can improve it from there.
Yeah. So closing the development loop, tightening that, accelerating development means that you're building more agents, you're putting more into production, and then so long as you have provable ROI, even if it means you're lowering accuracy, so long as the cost savings is greater than what you would lose otherwise, it's worth building.
Absolutely. And with the, like if you think about like an RPA, like if you have humans entering things manually, that is not 100% accurate, that there's always edge cases and things, and it does get stuck, there are faults and accuracies even in that process.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I'd love to get some parting thoughts from you both. What advice do you have people who haven't quite taken the plunge yet, but are thinking about now exploring agents? And Ram, we'll start with you.
So I usually look at it from the lens of business, right? If I'm a business owner, I'm going to look at what will I get based out of the agent solution, right, that I'm building it for them, right? So I usually tend to set return on expectations very clearly with business upfront, so they are very clear on what they are signing up for, right? Because we are in a probabilistic way of working today, right? So your expectations need to be set in terms of, is it 70%, 80%, right? In terms of, or is it 90%, right? So you don't want to be very ambitious in terms of setting that percentage, right? So you need to be very, very clear around that. Right? That's from the expectation side of it. But the larger question is that there are a lot of unknowns in this space, because we see that it works for one of the customers, doesn't mean that it will just work for you, right? Just like that. There is a lot of trial and error for us that we've always done it. So we usually tend to do it into a phased approach, where we wanted to understand what is the output that we get as part of this. So that's something that you'll need to be really, really clear when you are building, right, anything on agent side of it. So you clearly understand, right, how you are able to articulate that, right, back to the business. I think I would just focus on that and then just embrace the technology.
Hey, any ways that you would recommend that folks, frameworks that they might think about, or ways to report that back to the business?
So I think because we have always looked at time save, right, is one way to look at it, right, in terms of reporting back into the business. Okay, so it is hours, it is dollars, right? That's how we typically report it back to our business, or it is the growth, right, in terms of revenue generation. We look at it. That's how we tend to report right back into our business, right? I would just focus on that, okay, on right, what the current process is, how do we actually determine, right, the savings, then look at, right, how do we actually implement the solutions, right? We have a large number of assets, right? We have 300 plus automations, right, that we have built so far within the company, and a lot of times we don't build, right, small automations which has minimal value, because that is meant to be a citizen development automation for us, okay, and those are not supposed to be meant for us, right? I think both the technologies offers, right, to build agents, right, be a productivity tool. That's productivity in my mind, right? We tend to pick up the big use cases where we are able to drive more value.
Yeah, good insights. Bas, final thoughts for folks who have not gotten their toes wet yet, but are thinking about it. What should they be going into the world of agents with their eyes open, thinking about?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. We see many customers that have, especially in certain regulated environments or like more traditional engineering environments, they haven't looked into it and they haven't started, and their leadership team may be a little bit afraid or wary of the technology. And what we see work really well is if we can demonstrate like a simple use case, a very pragmatic use case, like something, and especially something that people are doing that's kind of annoying, like timesheet entry, or like handling incoming customer emails, trying to put that into a CRM system and do some basic analysis on it, classification. Those things are very quick to build out as a prototype using one of the tools to set it up, and that's something you can very quickly demo and showcase and show value from platform. And once you have that running, you sort of spark the imagination, I think, of your leadership team or the executives, and they'll start to think about like what else they can do, and especially how much money they can save with it. But the main thing is like start simple and start small. And if you've tried it like a year ago, like if you've tried agentic automation or agentic orchestration a year ago versus today, like the cost has come down dramatically, the accuracy has improved dramatically. It's come like an extremely long way in a very short amount of time. So even if you get some scenario that doesn't really work, like in a few weeks or a few months, there might be a new model that comes out that will just like blow that open. So we see it, go really, really quick. And especially now with the multi-agent orchestration, we see it's like very robust. Like we just launched a preview of it, but it's very easy to think about like breaking down tasks in a way you would do it more manually, like you're delegating things to different team members. It's the same process, the same way of thinking about that. Create like little agents that are good at very specific tasks, and some of them can be deterministic, and some of them can be agents, and you can stitch them together into like a single solution. You can do that very quickly now, and we see like really good output of that, like very robust process. So I would say like keep trying, like give it another shot. If you tried a few months ago, try it again, and start simple and start small and build it out from there.
Well, some very good insights from our two panelists here. Thank you, Ram. Thank you, Bas. Really appreciate you joining us today. Let's hear it for these two. That's just about all the time that we have here today. Thank you, folks, for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate it. If you want to learn more, you can go to UiPath.com. If you want to learn more about the bidirectional integration between UiPath and Microsoft, there's a blog post that Bas wrote last month. I would check that out. There's also another blog post that's coming out this week from us. Thank you all.